Welcome to News Brief. Let's get you caught up on the week's aviation news. And as we record this, it's the morning after Ian hit southwest Florida. The monster storm is moving across the Panhandle and aiming for Georgia and the Carolinas. So at this early point, we don't have reports on damage to the aviation infrastructure. Now, once the volunteer aviation organizations can assess the needs and opportunities to help, we'll let you know what you can do. Well, this week, the first flight of an all-electric commuter aircraft. Eviation's Alice took off from Grant County Airport in Washington State Tuesday. The 8-minute flight validated the prototype's electric motors and the fly-by-wire controls.
It was the proof that the aircraft will work together. I liken it to the space program, the American space program. And what we did today was the equivalent of Alan Shepard going up on his Redstone rocket, showing that you can actually do it. What we're doing next, of course, is maturing all the way to the to delivery, or we call it our landing on the moon. Will be deliveries of those first aircraft.
Now, Alice can carry up to 9 passengers or 2,600 pounds in the cargo configuration. Range is predicted to be about 250 nautical miles at a maximum speed of 260 knots. The Eviation says the first production aircraft could be delivered in 2027, but FAA certification and better batteries have to come first. But another electric aircraft company is bailing out. Kittyhawk, founded by Google's Larry Page, is shutting down. Now, it was considered to be one of the leaders in advanced air mobility and electrical vertical takeoff and landing, or that's eVTOL. The announcement came in a somewhat cryptic LinkedIn post, and surprisingly, Kittyhawk was still advertising job openings. But in the meantime, Wisk continues. Wisk is a joint venture between Kittyhawk and Boeing. Wisk continues developing a previous Kittyhawk design, the Cora. So the eVTOL landscape continues to evolve. You can see more on our website. And while there aren't any eVTOLs yet flying in commercial service, the FAA figures it better start thinking about where they're going to land. The agency has just released a set of standards for the design of vertiports. Now, that's where eVTOLs will land, in the center of cities. The standards look at things like the amount of space needed, load-bearing capacity for the vertiports placed on top of buildings, lighting, and the electrical infrastructure for charging station. The standards are sort of a starting point as the agency gets experience with actual vertiports and can develop performance-based design guidance. But here's some technology that's already working, and it's working great. Now, that's the AOPA Flight Training Advantage Program, and because we in aviation love acronyms, we call it AFTA. And AFTA just passed a huge milestone, more than 5,000 hours of flight instruction using AFTA tools. Now, AFTA is a web portal and iPad-based interactive training tool. It was developed and tested by experienced flight instructors on AOPA's You Can Fly team. It makes flight training more effective and efficient. It adapts to the individual student and helps the CFI structure the best training regime for the student. More info on our website, of course. And there clearly is a demand for better flight training. August was the second best month on record for airline hiring, and the airlines are screaming for more pilots. Flight schools are expanding. The ATP flight schools have expanded from 41 locations to 73 training centers nationwide. The Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that there will be more than 18,000 openings every year from now on for airline and commercial pilots. And yet another regional airline is trying to get more pilots moving through the training pipeline. Mesa Airlines is buying 29 Pipistrel Alpha Trainer 2 aircraft, and they have an option to buy a whole bunch more. Now, the little Rotax-powered two-seater will be the backbone of Mesa's pilot development program. Qualified pilots who join the program can fly up to 40 hours each week, that to build time towards the 1,500-hour requirement for an ATP certificate. They'll also get priority status for employment as a first officer at Mesa Airlines, and they can fly those 40 hours for $25 an hour. Now, Mesa will finance that at 0% interest. Pilots will repay the flight loan during their first 3 years flying for Mesa. And here's yet another path to the airlines. California Aeronautical University has partnered with SkyWest Airlines. The new elite partnership gives students a direct pathway to SkyWest's Pilot Pathway program. They can get a tuition reimbursement of up to $17,500, a guaranteed first officer interview at SkyWest, and seniority benefits. And after flying for 2 years as a SkyWest captain, a guaranteed pilot interview with Delta, United, Alaska, or Southwest Airlines. California Aeronautical University is a supporting AOPA sponsor. And here's something else to advance aviation education. This week, the House passed a bill to establish the National Center for the Advancement of Aviation. The NCAA would serve as an independent body to enable cooperation between all industry sectors to coordinate, promote, and support the future of aviation. The initiative would shape a generation of new pilots, aerospace engineers, unmanned aircraft systems operators, aviation maintenance technicians, and other professionals. They will particularly look at aviation STEM programs, such as AOPA's STEM program. And the NCAA is a top AOPA legislative priority. A companion bill awaits action in the Senate. And Congress is just beginning the process of reauthorizing the FAA. The FAA's authority to operate will expire next year, so Congress is beginning a series of hearings to determine what will be in the next reauthorization bill. This week, a hearing on how to integrate new entrants into the National Airspace System, new entrants like drones and so-called advanced air mobility aircraft like eVTOLs. And some of the lawmakers and the folks testifying said that the FAA has to become much more nimble in adapting its regulations to changing technology.
And while the issues facing the FAA are numerous and many of them are very complex, the inability of the agency to do its job and to manage the national airspace system is threatening to cut American innovation and global leadership off at the knees. Whether that is on the certification front for new platforms, rules for remote ID or operations beyond visual line of sight, integration into the air traffic management enterprise, or any number of other issues, our regulatory system too often is paralyzed with indecision.
And Senator Ted Cruz also took a couple of shots at the vacancies in top positions in the FAA, or senior positions that are currently being filled by folks in an acting capacity. And that includes the top spot, FAA administrator. And the job is likely to be missing a permanent administrator for some time more. Phil Washington has been nominated, but Politico is reporting that a criminal probe in Los Angeles is likely to delay action on his nomination. Washington once headed the LA Metro Transportation Authority, and a whistleblower has alleged that he steered a no-bid contract for a sexual assault hotline to a nonprofit to curry favor with the county supervisor. Washington denies the allegations, and the White House says the nomination is, quote, working its way through the Senate. Well, helicopter pilots in Ohio gathered at Fairfield County Airport just outside of Columbus last week for the 2022 Ohio Rotorcraft Symposium. More than 100 pilots and vendors attended, and several law enforcement helicopters flew in. The symposium included maintenance and operations tracks and covered a weather safety, aerospace medicine, the Icarus Smart View limiting device, and the danger of blind spots. Continuing safety education is important for all of us, of course. And a special thank you to all you law enforcement pilots for helping protect our communities. As part of our series exploring the National Aviation Heritage Area in and around Dayton, Ohio, this week we take you into where the Wright brothers learned how to build things. The brothers started, of course, as bicycle repairmen and builders. You can go inside one of their shops and see what it was like.
They're building bicycles, but they're still ordering most of the parts and the components from major manufacturers. They're using these tools to make their little tweaks to get to their specifications. When they can throw that badge on the front that says Wright Cycle Company, they got a Wright bicycle. They made a little over 300. They're for local sales. It's a local business. There's 5 remaining that we know of. When Henry Ford purchased the 5th bicycle shop in the family home on 7 Hawthorne Street, he got 2 bicycles. One is up in the Ford Museum, and one of those is on loan to the Smithsonian. 2 are in Carillon Park, and 1's in the Air Force Museum.
We also tour the Wright Brothers National Museum in Carillon Park, see several of the remaining bikes and the Wright Flyer 3. The video and others from the National Aviation Heritage Area are here on our YouTube channel. Well, on the way home to Maryland from AirVenture in Oshkosh, AOPA Sierra Harrop had a choice to make: fly around Lake Michigan through the congested Chicago area, or fly right over. Well, she put together a video talking through the planning and preparations for the flight. You can see the whole video right now by clicking on the link up there in the top corner. And here's an unusual airplane you may not have seen before. It's called the Piper Nomad. It's an Aztec on straight floats. There are only a handful flying. One is owned by Southern Seaplane in Belchos, Louisiana.
It's been around, I think, since the mid-'60s, and I don't know who owned the STC then. There was an STC to put these floats on the Aztec. And I think its original thought was that it has the same useful load as the de Havilland Beaver, but you have 2 engines, but it's considerably faster than a Beaver. A Beaver's a 90-knot airplane. This could be a 120-knot airplane. So some 30 knots faster, and it'll haul the same load as a Beaver. That's what the Nomad guys in Canada are touting.
The Nomad also uses floats from a Beaver. Southern Seaplane uses the airplane for multi-engine seaplane training, and you can watch the full video on our YouTube channel. Well, this is always one of our favorite fly-ins. Triple Tree Aerodrome hosted their 15th annual fly-in last weekend at their 7,000-foot grass runway in Woodruff, South Carolina. Hundreds of airplanes flew in for the week-long event to partake in Triple Tree's mission statement of fun, friendship, and hospitality. And our own Colin Stagnito flew the Cessna 170 sweepstakes aircraft to the event and gave a presentation on the state of general aviation. Well, it's not even Halloween yet, but you know, it's really not too early to start thinking about ordering your holiday cards. Our AOPA aviation-themed holiday cards for 2022 have just arrived. They're available now in the AOPA Pilot Gear store. Yeah, order yours now before they're sold out. They go fast. And that's News Brief for this week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.